Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a really special guest on, Frank Zaccari. I was on this guy's radio show recently, interviewed with along with Dr. Temple Hayes, and it was a blast. This guy's a lot of fun. So hang on, stay with us. We'll be right back. And we're back. Let me bring Frank on. Frank, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure. Love your introduction. That was great.
Thank you. So I created this about 2.5 years ago. I've interviewed somewhere in the vicinity of about 300 celebrities and entrepreneurs, and I'm trying to pull this up on my phone, so I have it over here too. But this show, I created this to help people have a breakthrough, to get unstuck in life. So let's start with where you were born and raised, Frank.
Well, I was born in Dunkirk, New York, which most people have never heard of. And Dunkirk, New York is about 35 miles outside of Buffalo. It's right on Lake Erie. It's got one of the most spectacular ports, which the city has never done anything with, unfortunately. But Dunkirk was your basic hard luck town. It was a steel town, heavy duty steel town, and it had 5 steel mills in the city. Right, that's how dependent on steel it was. When steel mills closed, obviously the city tanked, and has never really been able to really recover from that.
Yeah.
So it's a shell of what it once was. Growing up, it was a fun place to be at that time. You're close to the lake. I played baseball, which was going to be my way out. I didn't want to work in steel. That was just not going to happen. So I said, I got to find a way out of here. My parents and family don't have a lot of money, so college could be questionable. But you're a pretty fair baseball player. Maybe that's the way out, right? So I played baseball in high school, and then at age 18, I had a tryout with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pittsburgh Pirates basically told me, learn how to study and go to school.
Oh, did they really?
So they said a little nicer than that, but I said, okay, so I'm 18 years old. My dream is over. I'm not going to be Derek Jeter. I'm not going to play for the Yankees. It's done.
Wow.
So I enlisted in the Air Force. There was still the military lottery was still going on. For those of you who are old enough to remember the military lottery, my lottery number was 10. It's the only lottery I've ever won.
What's the what? I don't even know what that is. And
military lottery was when they still had the draft. In order to make it fairer, they said it was like ping pong, bingo balls, and the bingo ball would pop up with your birth date, and then the next set would pop up, and that would be your number, and that would be the number you would be drafted in, the order you would be drafted to go into the military. So if you're number 10, odds are pretty good. You're going to get drafted.
Got it. Wow.
So, I did get drafted. I waited for the letter from then President Nixon. And so I enlisted in the Air Force as a medic. And the difference was if you enlist, you have to spend 4 years. And if you are drafted, you go for 2 years. Okay. And I looked at it and said, well, let's see. I don't want to shoot anybody. And I don't particularly want anybody shooting at me.
Right.
So who's the last person other than a general to possibly get shot at? And I determined in my research it would be an Air Force medic, because if you do go to the war zone, you stay where the airplanes are, which are usually 100 and some odd miles from the front, and that's where the hospital is. So the wounded would come, and then you would deal with them at the hospital. But the rule, it wasn't always followed, but the rule was you cannot shoot, attack, bomb hospitals. Except periodically you get mortar attacks and that type of thing. So that was the military was great. I learned so much in that 4 years, and you get a management position very quickly. I was 19, 20 years old. I was running emergency room. I was part of a cardiac team. And then I went into, was the head of the pediatric clinic. So I had 90 children a day for a couple of years. So you
Wow.
learned patience, you learned how to delegate, you learned a lot of things that you're going to need later in life.
Yeah.
When I got out,
Now, was this during the Vietnam War then?
Yes, sir.
Wow. What year was that?
1971,
Oh
1972.
yeah.
It was near the end.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
heavy duty stuff was over. 1968, the Tet Offensive,
Yeah.
that was over and was winding down. And so I always felt safe.
So were you in Vietnam then? Were you over there?
No, I was lucky.
Oh,
I would go back and forth to Thailand a few times, but I never was in. I'm not a combat medic. Lucky, very lucky.
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, like Kimberly says, I second that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It always blows me away, man, because that's something I didn't do is serve my country. Probably the only real regret that I have is not doing that. So thank you.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun. And with that young age, you see a whole cross section of everything, and it's interesting because you don't care what the other
Right.
individual is. They're helping. I don't care who they are. I don't care what religion. You just don't care.
Yeah.
All right. I had some Marines that had been wounded say, there is no color in a foxhole. Okay.
Right.
The person
Right.
next to you is the person next to you, and you're going to do whatever you can to keep them alive and them to keep you alive.
Right. Right.
So it was a great experience. I got out. I went back to college. And I didn't want to be in the medical field anymore, as I thought I'd seen enough of death and destruction. So I went back to a 2-year school outside of a base called Yuba College. And I did real well, and I went into business management. And I went to Sacramento State University, got my degree. And then what I wanted to do, Ken, I wanted to trade money. I got a degree in finance, and I wanted to trade money. So I was in Sacramento, which is the capital of California.
Is this where the base was in Sacramento?
The base was just outside of Sacramento, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Northern California. And when I went to school at Sacramento State, I took a class in lobbying and pressure groups. And the professor comes in, and it's huge, it's like 80 students. And he says, I can't deal with 80 students. So he gives a reading assignment list the first day and walks out. And then a bunch of people didn't come back. And I said, look, I'm in the military. You're not going to scare me. Right. So he comes back the second day and he says, here's the test list, and walks out. So the third day he comes in for class, and there's maybe 30 people left out of maybe 70.
What?
And he goes, okay, I can work with this number. This is the capital of California. You want to learn about lobbying, identify a lobbyist, go downtown, interview him, write a paper on him. So I said, all right, I'm up for that.
So wait, let's talk about this professor. He literally ran off 50 students.
He said he couldn't later. He said it's too big. The class is too big to get into the level of depth that needs to be gotten into. And so he was.
But isn't that what he's paid to do? Is like,
you would think so.
What the heck, man? Like, what? That's rude, man. People are paying money to be there. Like,
you would think so.
What?
So we had. I was majoring in finance, and so I contacted the lobbyist for the Bank of America, and I said, okay, I've got a dual edge here. I'm going to do the paper, I'm going to do the study, but I want him to get me an interview with the Bank of America.
Yeah.
So I go down and I meet with him. A wonderful man. His name was Judge Harold Broders. Great guy. And he gave me open access. I could come and go. I could go to hearings that he was in. The whole thing. Wonderful. Learned a lot about how government operates or lack of operation.
Yeah.
And then I said, no, there's a hidden agenda here. I want you to get me an interview at the trading room at Bank of America in San Francisco, which he did.
Wow.
So I go in, I interview in the trading room where they trade money in San Francisco.
Right.
And they offered me a job. And back then, a long time ago, they said, well, we starting pay is $10,000. And you have to move to San Francisco. So while I was on campus, NCR, National Cash Register,
yep.
came into the to interview, and I met with them. I didn't know who NCR was. I thought it was National Semiconductor when I went in for the interview because there was
Right.
no Google. I mean, who the hell knew?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I go in to meet with them, and they say they're putting a computer division together, and they offer me a position at $14,000 a year. So I'm a finance major, so I can stay living in Sacramento in the apartment that I'm in and get 14,000 a year, or I can move to San Francisco where I can't afford to live and get paid $10,000. So I said, all right, we're going to go do NCR. We're going to go into high tech. We'll do that 2-3 years, and then we'll move into back into finance. And so I did that. And then 28 years later, I was still in high tech,
Wow.
which was just a real experience, Ken. It was something where it's very proactive. It's a proactive industry. It's always moving forward, and it's always a lot of changes coming all the time. And you got to stay on top of so many things in technology. And then
Isn't NCR, they're based here out of Dayton, Ohio, aren't they?
they were they were
Or were,
they
yeah.
yeah, they were. NCR had done great things for a long, long time, and then they were acquired by AT&T, and then NCR ran AT&T's computer division, which
Okay.
AT&T had failed multiple times at.
Yeah.
And it was I was interviewed with a group about mergers and acquisitions, and I was part of that merger and acquisition at NCR and AT&T. So they
Wow.
said, Frank, you were part of one of the most catastrophic failures in the history of mergers and acquisitions. Now, I didn't personally put it together, but I was there when it occurred. And
Wow.
I said, yeah, it was. It didn't go well. The culture clash just did not work. And NCR or AT&T lost $1 million a day from 8 o'clock in the morning until noon. And then they
Gee.
went to lunch. And to prove it wasn't a fluke, they came back after lunch and lost another $1 million between noon and 5.
Oh my God. To prove it wasn't a fluke. Oh my
They
gosh.
had to make sure that they. So
Wow.
while I was there, it's a funny story. It was NCR. I was director of government operations. So I had government in I
Yeah.
don't know how many states, 13, 14 states.
Yeah.
The merger occurs. AT&T comes in and says, okay, Frank, you're going to run the whole Western United States. You're going to be government operation director. And in the tech world, everything is an acronym, right? And so I said to them, you may want to rethink the title. And he said, why? And I said, well, director of government, DOG, dog. You want me to be government operation director, God, God. And the
Right.
guy burst out laughing, and he said, hell, I don't care. So on my door, it said Frank Zaccari, God.
Oh my.
And
Wow.
so my staff in 20 some states, anytime something would come up and they needed me, and they said, oh, we got to go ask God.
That is so funny.
That was
Wow.
fun.
So that was in all of that was in the Sacramento, that general area.
That was all over the place. It started in
Oh,
Sacramento. I had operation in northern and southern. I had operation in San Diego. We had one in San Francisco, one in Los Angeles, Seattle, all over. So we had offices in 24 states that
wow.
I would go to. And the way we approached this was we set up tiger teams. Because at NCR, I think I had 14 states, and I had probably 18 people total.
Yeah.
AT&T comes in and says, well, we have 200 and some odd people at AT&T. And I said, well, that's probably one of the problems. You have way too many people. So we said, we'll put tiger teams together. So we'll put people in these states who live there. And then you sort of the hunters. You go
Right.
looking for opportunities in these areas of government where they generate revenue, Department
Right.
of Taxation, DMV, et cetera. All right. Once you identify an opportunity, then I will bring in a tiger team of people who are specialists in that particular sector from throughout the 24 states that I had. And then we would go in, put the package together, win the deal, hopefully, and then run that operation for X period of time. It was so much fun because it put all the skills that you've learned as far as negotiation and collaborating and bringing people in, working with the government side, plus you got to bring in contractors and making everybody be nice, play nice, everybody play nice.
Wow.
So that worked out well. I left AT&T and went to a company that did a lot of software for us. And that was one of those ones where it's a smaller company and they lie to you because they're not publicly traded. So you can't see all their financials. So you get there and I start going through things and I went, oh my God, I go sit down with the owners. And I said, if this is correct, you guys are going to run out of cash in about 274 days.
Jeez.
And they said, well, Frank, that's why you're here.
Jeez.
I said, well, it would have been nice if you had told me that. And he said, well, you wouldn't have taken the job. So we sat down and said, all right, what are we going to do here? Now, sit with the owners and all that collaboration that you learned in the military, plus in those big projects. We said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to get pretty and be sold? Do you want to merge with somebody else? Do you want to acquire? What is it you want to do? And the owners were at that time in their late 50s, early 60s. And they said, we just want to get out with something. So we put that strategy together. We went from 4 million to 8 million to 15 million in revenue, sold that company, and then went on to whatever the next one was. Now, when you take your second one of these turnarounds, you go with your eyes open because you've already been lied to once.
Yeah.
So then I would go into these organizations and we'd put a contract together. So it'd be like, I will work for you for X period of time. You're going to pay me X. If we don't like each other, if we get divorced, here's the out clause for me. Here's the out clause for you.
Right.
Let's put it together. And then we put a timetable on it, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. And that was a blast because now you're walking into organizations that are just floundering. They're maybe going under. And the first meetings are usually really interesting. Is I get everybody together and I just tell them, okay, here's who I am. This is what I've done. I want to meet with everybody individually. Let's find out. You're all here for a reason. Obviously, it means something to you. Let's figure out how we can make this better. And the best one I had, Ken, I was up in Seattle at the time. It was a guy named Paul Allen. Not that Paul Allen. His name just happened to be Paul Allen. And he sat there while I'm talking with his arms and his legs crossed, and he was leaning back like this, and he said, you know, I've been through 7 of you. Why is this going to be any different? And I said, wow, that's a good question. So I said, well, I've had a lot of success doing this, number one. And number two, if this continues, I can definitely guarantee you won't be here for the 8th person. So let's sit down and figure out how to make this work. And so we got that together. I did that for about 14, 15 years, doing turnarounds of failing companies, multiple companies. And none of them ever failed, thank God.
Yeah.
They always ended up better than where they were. And then we either sold them or we merged with somebody or we acquired a couple of companies. We bought them. And then I would
You said you did that for about 14 years?
14, 15, yeah.
And and so you ended up leaving that, it sounds like.
Yeah.
About what year was that?
When I left the tech sector was about 2003. No, even before, maybe 2000. Yeah. I was living in Seattle. I was the CEO of 2 companies up there. I traveled a lot in high tech. I was gone probably 2 weeks out of every month. Yeah, somewhere around the world. It was exciting. My wife decided it wasn't so exciting, and she left. I guess she got tired of someone not being present, so she left, and I had custody of my 2 daughters who were young at the time. And so we the 3 of us, 2 little girls and I, sitting there thinking, oh, what am I going to do here? I can't stay in high tech because I'm traveling too much. Yeah, can't do that.
And you're in Seattle at the time, right?
I'm in Seattle at the time,
which is the most expensive place in America to live.
Yeah, it's up there. It's way up there.
It's up there, yeah.
So we sat down. and said, well, what are we going to do here? I can't travel. I got to be a full-time father. A friend of mine back in Sacramento owned an insurance agency. He was going to have to retire because of a physical disability. And he said, why don't you come down here and help me, and then you can take this over. So as much as when you go from high tech, very proactive, dynamic industry, and you're a type A personality, and then you move into insurance, which is a reactive industry, it's like dying and going to hell.
Yeah. Well, let's go back. Like Joe asks a good question. What did you find was I think he meant most common cause of the company's failure prior to you getting there? What was the most common cause?
The most common cause was they were overextending themselves. They were juggling too many balls. They wanted to be A, but then, oh, this looks nice over here. The shiny object model for a lot of small businesses. Why, like, this is good. Oh, but this over here might be better. So they start chasing down a lot of rabbit holes, and then they bring on way too many people. Instead of addressing an issue, they just throw people at the issue.
Right.
And then the biggest thing, and what the fastest way to turn around an organization is to sit down and go through all the processes. And the first question I always ask is, why? Why are we doing this? Not antagonistically, but why do we do this?
Right.
Then they'll say, well, we do this because blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, how can we do it better?
Right, right.
And then they would say, well, we don't really need this and this and this. And I said, well, then let's eliminate this and this and this. And let's document it and put it together and then go forward. The third thing, Ken, that's a big problem is a lot of these small companies they probably came from a big organization or the military or something that had a lot of structure, and they hated that. I want a flat organization. Okay, so in many cases, they didn't write any of these processes or procedures down because, in this area over here, well, John knows the answer. Well, you need to go talk to John. Okay, so I would say, well, what happens if John's not here? And they said, well, he'll be back tomorrow. And I said, well, what happened if John got hit by a truck?
Right.
And they said, oh, well, someone else will figure it out. So a lot of it is just getting organized, getting your thought processes back in place, writing things down so that there's a guide on what to do and how to do what to do, so that if the key person isn't there, the organization continues to be successful, can still function. Maybe not as well, but can still function. People know what to do. One of the stories I used to tell people was, when I was up in Seattle, I was involved with the University of Washington volleyball program. And I was their head of their fundraising and booster group. And at one point in time, University of Washington and Arizona State were two of the best schools in the nation. One year, both of them lost their best player. Washington's All-American broke her hand. She missed 12 games. The Arizona State woman had a ACL tear, so she missed about 15. When that occurred, the Arizona State woman, she was it. Everybody went to her. They knew what to do, get the ball to her. Okay, she'll get the point. When she wasn't there, they were lost. They just floundered. They didn't look like they knew what they were doing. Okay, well, she's not here. What do I do? Washington, on the other hand, lost the National Player of the Year, 3-time All-American, and they won 11 of the 12 matches because they knew what to do. It was all documented. Everybody knew their role. They knew what to do when they were in the game, regardless of whether she was there or not.
Right.
And that alone will turn around more companies than you can possibly imagine. And unless there's internal theft or something along those lines, it's usually a process problem. So
it was 14, 15 years. Was that when you made the change? And you ended up moving to where for the insurance thing?
When I left Seattle, I went back to left the high tech after wife left.
Right.
We moved back to Sacramento. It was like Sacramento was this vortex that kept sucking me back, and always coming back to Sacramento.
Yeah.
So I took over this agency. It was the guy sold a lot of policies, and he did pretty good money, but the agency wasn't profitable. It made maybe $5,000 a year in profit. And I come from a profit-driven, not revenue-driven model.
Right.
Right. So when I met with the leaders, And I said, well, the only thing I knew about insurance at the time was I didn't like paying for it.
Right.
Right. So they said, well, this is the best practice. Put your office here, 15 to 20 mile radius around your office. You call those people up. They come to your office. You sell them insurance. I said, okay, well, how hard can that be?
Right.
Well, it's pretty damn hard.
Yeah.
Because the people in that 15 to 20 mile radius and the company and the people I inherited wanted the lowest possible amount of insurance.
Yep.
And they constantly paid late and spending all my time reinstating policies that had gone out of force. And it was at a point where I completely hated everything that was going on. I just hated it with a passion.
Right.
So when I'm having my little pity party, one of my friends from the tech sector said, shut up, look it. You know how to run organizations, so do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Well, I said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to change the process here. I don't want everybody with a pulse, and I don't want everybody in that 15 to 20 mile radius. I want people who have a minimum family income of $150,000, who have one house, 2 cars, and children.
Right.
And my staff all looked at me and go, well, what are you doing? I said, well, what we're supposed to do is protect people's hopes and dreams, which sounds like, world peace and motherhood and all that.
Yeah.
But they have hopes and dreams that they want to protect. So we're going to try and protect them for them. And how we're going to do that is we're going to give them the best possible coverage, or the highest possible coverage, and the best possible service at the fairest price. Not the lowest price, because everybody in insurance, every commercial you see is that we can save you 15%. No, we're going to give you a fair price. Okay. And then we're going to go to their offices and we're going to go to their homes and not wait for them to come to us. So we're going to work around their schedules. And when I would go meet with people, Ken, we would talk about business. We talk about their life. We talk about their kids. What are they trying to do? What are their goals? And then we would work the insurance component in. But it wasn't, here's how insurance worked. It was, let's build a relationship with the individual first.
Yep.
I learned that in the military. I learned that all through the tech sector. Build a relationship first, build that sense of trust, and show them how you can bring value to them.
Yep.
So in a very short period of time, 2 years, we made $750,000 in profit. And I owned it for 13 years. And we averaged over that 13 years, $400,000 a year in profit, even with all the fires that we're having in California, right?
Yeah. Right.
At the end of that point in time, it was the insurance thing, Ken, was a means to an end. I'm going to do it because I got 2 little girls that I have to raise.
Right.
So when the youngest one graduated from college at Arizona State, she graduated in December. I don't know how many years ago that was. And then I sold the agency in March. And I remember the state office.
What year was that?
That was probably 5 years ago, 5 years ago. And the state office people came to see me and they said, what are you doing? You're running one of the most profitable agencies in all of California. People in your position don't sell the business. And I said, well, I don't like the business. And
Right.
I want to sell while I'm at way up here.
And what's interesting about what you said is, Jeffrey Gitomer is a good friend of mine, and he talks a lot about that. Build the relationship, deliver value, and the sale comes naturally. And I think that is such a huge missing component in a lot of sales strategies today.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We now I have a partnership with Jay Abraham, the marketing guy.
Yeah, I know Jay.
Marketing guy, the marketing genius.
Yeah.
And we put together a program called the Tag Team. And the Tag Team is, there's 4 of us in this group, as we start now working with aspiring entrepreneurs or people who have plateaued and are looking to, where do I go next, right? The thing Jay Abraham says every single time I talk to him is, he said, value is what you provide to the other person. It's not what you get in return.
Right.
So always keep that at the forefront.
Yeah.
And then it's always about relationships, because once you put that relationship and you show the value, you become the go-to. They're not going to go anywhere else. Look at Harley Davidson. People pay more for Harley Davidson and wait in line, and they wear all the paraphernalia. because they
Same,
are
same,
David.
same with this product right here.
Exactly. That was the
Same
next
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
There's an I everything, and people will stand in line. I remember whenever, whatever, I don't know what version phone came out, but I was in Phoenix. I have a house in Phoenix,
Yeah.
and my daughters both live in Phoenix, and so does my grandson. So we were down at one of the malls, and they had an Apple store, and there was a line. And this is Phoenix; it's hot. There's a line going almost around the block to get whatever whatever it was at that
Yeah.
point in time.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that and saying, they've done it. They have got you to the point where the relationship is so strong that they're not even going to consider dealing with anybody else. And that's a
Right.
lot of, from what I know about you, that's what you do in your business.
It is.
People go to you because they know, number one, they're going to get an honest evaluation.
Yeah.
They trust you.
Yeah.
And you have a relationship with them. And that's the most important thing I found in my 67 plus years is if you can't build a relationship, and regardless of what it is you're doing, you're not going to be successful.
Well, and I think that there are obviously temporary successes where people do it without that relationship. But if you don't have that relationship, I mean, then it just becomes a price war. It's a race to the bottom. And I think that people miss that. Like, I don't discount my services. I just don't, but I don't have to either. Like,
Exactly.
I don't have to discount because my clients know I'm going to give them unbelievable value. So that brings up a really, really good point. So you formed this. How did you meet Jay Abraham? I mean, Grant Cardone, who I told you was on with me last night, I think he had Jay speak at one of the 10X growth conferences. And how did that come about? Where you start working with Jay?
That came about through my partner, Gabby Ori is his name, Gabriel Ori.
Okay.
And Gabby has done high-end financing and scaling of organizations for years and years. And I met Gabby kind of on a whim. I was in Sacramento. We both went to this show, play, Sherlock Holmes thing, right?
Yeah.
We both ended up going to the same restaurant afterwards. And so we're sitting next to each other and we're making small talk, right? So we go to dinner, we come out. He and his wife are still sitting at the bar. They had dinner at the bar. They went there a lot.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, let's go meet them. So I said, my name's Frank Zaccari. And the wife said, Zaccari, do you have family in Arizona? And I said, yeah, I do. And he says, do you know Annette Zaccari? And I said, Annette Zaccari is my sister. And she goes, oh my God, Annette and I were on these boards for all this thing. And so we start talking, and somehow in the conversation, it comes up, well, I'm talking to her, Gabby's talking to my wife, and she said, well, your husband said he was a mentor and a judge with the University of California Entrepreneurship Academy. And she said, yeah, he is. And she said, I want to meet the winner of the last Big Bang competition because I think we can help her. And my wife laughed and she said, Frank was her mentor. So we started talking about this and said, we can work with these brilliant minds. My God, they're so intelligent and they do science and technology beyond belief, but they can't get the product into the marketplace because they don't know how to do that step. So let's put that together. And then Gabby said, let's connect with Jay Abraham. And then I laughed. I said, you're right. I'm going to call Jay Abraham. And he goes, I'm going to call Jay Abraham. I know him. I have worked with him.
Wow.
So he calls Jay Abraham, and we set up a conference call, and we sit there and chat, and I write up the plan. This is how we think we can do this, and here's the process, and it'll be a very elite and exclusive, and people have to apply for it. Yeah. And then we'll put the muscle of Jay Abraham's muscle plus the rest of the strategic partnerships we can bring to bear and help these people really get launched and get out there. Okay. And one of the things when I was with the University of California, the Entrepreneurship Academy, I love them because they're so smart. They're so smart.
Yeah.
But they had at the end of 1999, or end of 2019, Jesus, Frank, end of 2019, they had 19,224 patents and licenses.
Wow.
Right. And that's what I said. And the professor in charge of the program says, yeah, well, don't get excited about that, Frank. He said 60% of the revenue comes from 5. And I said 5%. He goes, no, 5 of the 19,224 patents generate 60% of our revenue.
And so that's what with who?
It's the University of California system.
Oh, wow.
UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, the UC system.
Yeah.
So, and there's 10 of them. So I said, so you're a major research university. What's the problem? And he says, well, we have 5 reasons. And the first reason was basically no market. And I said, nicely, said to him, well, that's code for you didn't pass the who cares test.
Right.
Great science, great technology. Who cares? It doesn't bring any value to anything or anyone.
Right.
We went down the rest of the list. And then we said, I'd be happy to help. So I was a mentor. I became a judge with them. And one of the things that if you have aspiring entrepreneurs listening is I tell them all the time, what do you need to launch this business? And what I'll hear is, oh, well, we need about 50,000 or 100,000 to go from A to B.
Right.
And I said, then what are you going to do 3 months from now when you're out of money?
Right.
Now you go back to pitch deck hell. You start pitching it to everybody. You can rub 2 nickels together, waste more time, give up more of your business. And I said, if you need, for example, with the one that we're working with, he said, you need $10 million to get from A to launch, get the product into the market. So ask for $10 million. And they said, well, isn't that going to scare investors away? And I said, no, absolutely not. You're not going to scare an investor away with a big number. Number one, it'll probably give you more credibility because you're thinking long term, you're thinking more realistically. But the thing most people miss is they don't say use of funds. What am I going to use this money for? When am I going to need it? And the milestone is going to be. Because no investor is going to give you 10 million or 100 million or whatever it is you're asking for up front. It's just not going to happen. Right. They're going to give it to you in pieces as you hit milestones. Okay. Yeah. Then they will bring in strategic partners to work with you to make sure you stay on target. That's what the tag team does with Jay Abraham and Gabby, myself, and the others. So we bring in these people to work with you to make sure you're staying on task and that we're getting to the right point. It also gives you relational capital because now you don't have to go back to pitch deck hell because the investor knows what you're doing. They know where you are in the process and they can be releasing more funds for you. So your life becomes infinitely better. And it's funny, Ken, because I hear these people saying to me, well, I have to give up too much of my company. No, I say it nicer than this, but I'd say that, well, right now you have 100% of nothing.
Right.
Now, isn't 50% or 40% of $50 million worth a hell of a lot more than 100% of nothing?
Exactly. And I think a lot of people don't, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire adult life. And especially in my younger days, I thought I have all the answers. You can't, all I need's the money and I'll figure it out. And that's just not necessarily true. And I think that also is a major cause of failure for younger entrepreneurs, even older ones.
Yeah, it is. I'm putting together a book now, and the book is called "The Secret to Walking on Water is to Know Where the Rocks Are." That's how I end my radio show every week.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things that when I talk to people is I just say, what you know is not nearly as important as what you don't know.
Right.
What you don't know will sink you quicker than anything else.
Yep.
And then who you know is also more important than what you know.
Yeah.
Are you involved with people who have the expertise and have been there and have a network that they can call in when you need it? So many of the young entrepreneurs, I'm smart. I'll figure it out. I'm not going to pay for this. I'm not
Right.
going to pay for this, right? Okay, fine.
You
In
will.
2 years, you're going to be gone.
Yeah. You will pay for it eventually.
I love Joe's statement there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Joe. It's it's funny. I gave a talk on this, and I said, here's what I hear a lot. I'm going to get a frat brother. Okay, nice guy, but I'm going to get a professor from college. And I thought, okay, again, smart man, never been there, never done that.
Right.
Uh, or my best one, my favorite one is, I know a guy.
Yeah.
And I say, I'm an Italian. I grew up in New York. I know a guy is not a good thing.
Right. Right.
So let's put together. And so we put that in. One of the things we do.
So let me ask you this though, real quick,
Sure.
if I may. So you have do you have a partnership, a business, a company with Jay Abraham then?
Yes, we have a partnership
Holy
with
crap.
Jay Abraham and there's 4 people in this partnership.
Wow.
At the moment, 4 principals.
Yeah.
And then as we identify these opportunities, then we screen them. So before anybody gets Jay Abraham, it goes through an intensive screening.
Really? Yeah.
Right. And we send out an executive summary. So it's like an invitation to be part of it.
Yeah.
It's very elite and very exclusive. So not everybody's going to get in. So we send it out. Send us your executive summary as you have it. Now, being a judge and a mentor with the University of California system for 3.5 years, we go through that and we evaluate it like we did with people that were in these big bang competitions. And then we'll get back to them. Okay. Yeah. You need help in this area, or this is a saturated market, or this is a hell of a good idea. Have you looked at ABC? And then if they get entered, if we accept them into the tag team program, then all the resources in the world can come together and we lay out the strategic model with them. The whole idea, Ken, is 60% of businesses fail within 3 years.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 80% fail within 5. And some of the talks I give, I'd say that, look, we've been following that model for a long time.
Yeah.
And the failure ratios aren't getting any better. So maybe we should do something different. Maybe we should look at it with a little bit different set of lenses, because that way, not working.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So let's adjust. Why do you want to keep banging your head against the wall? There's a door over there. Go through the door.
Right. That's incredible. So you go through sounds like a pretty stringent vetting process before and so when you get, what are some of the criteria that you're looking for?
Well, the best one is the first 2 that we're looking at right now is, number one, you got to be innovative. All right. You can't be, I'm another bakery and I sell it for a nickel less. Okay.
Yeah.
Not interested. So it's got to be innovative, number one. It's got to be disruptive. It's got to be something that's going to alter a process or alter an industry or alter a way of doing business. Right now, we like green technologies and medical, because that's where the bulk of the jobs are going to be coming from.
Right.
In the future, green and medical related.
Right.
And then we have them, if they came through the UC programs, then we know a little bit about them already, and we'll just say, okay, here's my website. Go to my website, frankzaccari.com. As soon as you get on it, the thing pops up. There's the application for an executive summary. Fill it out, send it to us. Okay, we'll get back to you.
That's to be involved in. That's to be mentored by you and Jay Abraham and whoever
Gabby
the other
Ori and the other people, right? And
wow.
the idea there is we're looking for people that number one are willing to be coached, and willing to listen. And sometimes right out of school types don't work, because they're smarter than everybody anyway.
Oh, they know everything.
So
I've got some funny interview stories about that, actually.
They're great.
Yeah.
And we get more traction from people who have tried for a couple of years and they're getting the snot beat out of them.
Yeah.
And they're not getting the money, and they're behind on their schedule, and they're just wringing their hands. And a lot of times it comes down to, Ken will sit down and say, one very brilliant scientist, and we said, do you really want to be the CEO of this company? Do you really understand what it takes to be a CEO, to juggle all these projects and all the things that require your time and energy and effort? Wouldn't you rather be the chief scientist and do what you love? And he said, well, yeah, but then who's going to do this other stuff? I said, that's why you contract with us. We will do the other stuff.
Yeah.
We'll let you do what you do best.
Wow.
And we'll fill in the holes. The other thing that occurs a lot, Ken, is they go out and hire people. Okay, so it takes a long time to hire people. You know that.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work when you hire somebody. So then you got to go through all that nonsense.
Do you agree with Joe, what Joe just says there? Entitled.
That's a great line, Joe.
Right?
Yes.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
So true.
It's funny because when we meet with them in these mentoring sessions, you meet with them, Joe, and they start talking about the science or the medicine or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I listen for a couple of seconds and I'll just say, that's all wonderful, but I can't even ask you a question about the science because I don't even understand what you're saying about the science. But what I'm going to ask you is, why does anybody care? And to put Joe's point, they're stunned. And it's like, do you have any idea how difficult this is? And they said, no, I don't, because I don't understand it. But what I do understand is the world may not want this. You have a solution looking for a problem. Let's find a problem and bring the solution to it.
Right. Yeah, Laura's a client of mine, dear friend of mine. She's a nurse practitioner, and she has a huge medical practice, and she does a lot of geriatric, like it's all geriatric patients.
Right.
That's what she specializes in. And she loves your question. Do you want to be the CEO or provide care? And she had never thought about it before.
And that's a big deal because one of the things that the ones who have come into the program now are saying, oh my God, now I do what I love doing. And you can become, and I did this in the beginning too, I was the highest paid clerk in my company. Right. And I dealt with so many other organizations and they'll say, well, it's just faster if I do it. And I said, okay, well, then why did you hire these people for? So they're going home at 5:00. They're dumping their problem on your desk. You're allowing it to happen. And then you're there till 9 or 10 o'clock doing their job that you're paying them to do.
Right.
So either be a leader or go be a clerk.
Yeah. Joe, like Joe says, but I spent all this time making this. Now I need to be recognized.
Yeah. You're gonna one of the J. Abraham stories that I heard was Fred Smith, who started Federal Express, right?
Yeah.
It was the same thing. But this is mine. I did this. I don't want to lose control. I want this to be what it is. J. Abraham gave them a few suggestions and ideas. He charges a lot of money, obviously, but he gave them some suggestions and ideas. And they go from wherever they are to $500 million. Okay. It's like, all right, let's think about this, guys. Who cares who gets the credit as long as everyone engaged is doing well? You're going to still have your name on the top. You're still going to be the CEO if that's what you want to be.
Right.
You can be that, or you can be the chief scientist, or you can be on the board. Do what you love. Let us surround you with the people who've been there and done that. And as I was saying before, you don't have to bring these people in as employees. We bring them in as a strategic partner to do X.
Yeah.
When X is done, they go away. Okay. But if we need them, they can come back and they already know where you are. So you avoid this treadmill where you get hired and interviewing, and that's a pain.
People don't think, and that's huge, man. Getting the right people in place on your team is so important. It's like Joe just said, I don't care about the title. I just show me the money. Right. Like,
I like you, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of owning a business? I mean, I think people miss that, man.
They do. And a lot of it is getting over the ego. And that's a big thing. is getting over the ego, and it's mine, and I created it. And one group was said, it's not a child. It's not your child. This is a business. This is something that you can move into something that could really matter. But at the pace you're going, and you got your arms so tight locked around it, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And there's a lot of people get really angry at me at these things. I just like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I said, well, okay, I'll be here in 3 to 5 years. Pick up the pieces and give me a call down the road.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like Jay Abraham is probably he's one of the top, most well-known for sure marketing geniuses on the planet.
Oh yeah, by far.
And to be able to say that you have a partnership with him and you vet people before they even get to him, that's incredible, man. That's absolutely incredible. So and it's frankzaccari.com, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna throw that up on the screen here, just so people can find you. So what do you, I can't believe we're already at 51 minutes. This is an hour long show. Unbelievable, man. So what do you think, in your opinion, what is the number one thing? I got that right, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the number one thing that stops people? And listen, let me preface this by saying fear is always a popular answer to this question. But what is the number one thing in your opinion that stops people from experiencing true success and happiness in life and owning a business or running a business, any of it?
I think after fear is failure to delegate. It's failure to identify the tasks and the roles that you need. Okay. Because when you start a business, you're usually good at one thing. Right? Yeah. So I'm good at this one. I'm gonna go. I'm off. All right. Well, that one thing's not enough. And you're going to have to surround yourself with people. So you're going to have to give up control, get rid of your ego, and you're going to have to learn how to delegate. And then manage, keep people on task. I've seen so many, three of the companies that I took over as CEO that were failing, they had other CEOs. The owner came in and he said, you do it and I'm going to go. Okay, that's great. Tahiti's nice. But you have to stay on top of it. You have to look at what are the reports. Let's have some brainstorming sessions. I always made it a point that the principal owners of the companies I took over, we're going to meet once a week.
Yeah.
Either we didn't have Zoom back then, but either on the phone or we're going to meet face to face, and we're going to go through a set of tasks that were laid out and where we are, and then start looking at other strategies. Like, hey, there's a company over here that we can acquire. Let's put that on the table. Let's put that in the hopper to think about. There's a company over here that wants to acquire us. Let's look at how we can put those things together. One thing Jay Abraham talks about a great deal is other people's money, okay? Is setting up alliances with other organizations where you don't have to put out a lot of money. You can merge with them. You can acquire their assets. You can take over their marketing. You can do something where both sides benefit. And right now, during great adversity, is where great opportunity is going to come to the forefront. And we have got more adversity right now than we've had in years. So the opportunities are there to ethically change things.
Well, I think we have more adversity than in the history of mankind, perhaps. I don't know. It's pretty intense. But so, first off, where are you most active on social media for people to follow you?
We're on LinkedIn a lot. I've got Frank Zaccari on Facebook. We have Life Altering Events, which is the name of my company, on Facebook. We have the radio show, which is called Life Altering Events, which is part of voiceamerica.com, and they can get me through that. You send me emails. The one that I actually look at is Frank Zaccari at Gmail. I got 3 other ones that have all the political send me money thing. Go over to that.
Yeah, right.
email address.
Yeah.
But I'm fairly easy to find. I've got 5 books out. The 6th one is in the process. It's being edited right now. We'll see how long that process takes.
And are you and I are co-authors in a book, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are.
What's that book?
That book is called Crappy to Happy. You got to love that name, right?
I know, right?
And that's Ariel Patricia and Kat Kavanaugh.
Yep.
Put that piece together, and it's basically going through life, things that have happened to us, and how we came out the other side significantly better. So you were in this crappy situation, and you did A, B, C, D, and you came out, and now you're happy.
Yeah.
And when I sold the insurance agency, Ken, it was now I'm in my I was in my 60s, right? And I go, okay, what am I going to do when I grow up? So it was, well, we're going to do something that's going to matter. We're going to be involved in helping people avoid the landmines that I stepped on, both personal life, and professionally, because we all make mistakes, and hopefully you don't make them multiple times. Yeah. But if I can, and that's what this next book is going to be, is if I can say, look, here's 12 pitfalls that you're gonna run into. So here's ways to help avoid these pitfalls. All right. And if you're going to just be so focused like I was, so type A, I'm knocking down walls, and you get to the top of the mountain and you look around and there's nobody there.
Right.
So what was all this about? Why did I do this? Why did I try? No. So I said, that's enough. That's enough.
Hey, Fareed has a question here. Does your company mentor and find funding for entrepreneurs as well?
We do mentor, for sure. And if the opportunity is right, we can bring in funding. A lot of it, Fareed, goes to that screening, vetting process. Is that we're going to vet this. It's an interview like you've never been through before. And we're going to vet it down in great depth so that we all understand where we're trying to go. And then the big thing as far as finding money is so many people, number one, they don't know how much they need, number one. And when they ask for money, then you got to lay out the use of funds. I'm going to use this for this, and it's going to take this long. And most people don't do that. Like you said earlier, I know what to do. Just give me the money. Okay.
Yeah. You don't want to show up to a meeting with Jay Abraham with that attitude. I've met Jay, and I can promise you do not want to show up with that attitude.
Right. You're going to spend a lot of money for a very short meeting.
Right. Very short. So Joe Ingram says that you're a great guy. He sent you a LinkedIn friend request. I do like this. Where is it? Anna says, would love to see some bite-sized nibbles over on Instagram. That's an area of opportunity for you. I think that's what she means. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Instagram stories, man. You should be putting little bits out on Instagram stories if you're not.
I'll have to do that. I haven't done much on Instagram. I've got a YouTube site. And the way I think we've got 10 little YouTube chats out there.
Yeah.
And then there's 60 some radio show interviews that if he wants to have that, I can show you where the links are, and you can bring those up. The interview with Ken, for those who are listening out there, it hasn't aired yet, but we interviewed Ken and Dr. Temple Hayes together. And that's one you have to hear. You have to hear it because they're so dynamic, and it's so much fun. There was so much laughter during that interview.
And you look, I just got to say this, you are a fantastic interviewer. I've after doing a few hundred of these, I think I can call myself an expert.
Yeah, you are.
And to see what you what you're doing, man, it's absolutely incredible, and you're really, really good at it. So my
Thank
hat's
you.
off to you.
Thank
Literally,
you.
I don't have it on it.
You don't have, if I had, I'd take it off.
It's really good. And Anna brings up a good point too. IGTV is good for clips that are longer than 1 minute. And it's really it really is a great platform. And listen, I gotta be honest, man. I interviewed, or I not interviewed, I ignored Instagram for a long time. And geez, that was a bad idea. So
Yeah.
look, Fareed is taking copious notes. That's so awesome to hear. I love that. You have provided a ton of value. And yeah, and Joe's right. The human attention span is, you know,
Right.
before we end this, I got to bring this up because I think that with your experience, if there's anyone in their youthful years watching right now, I remember a few years ago, and I'm the CEO of the company. We're a marketing firm and do web development and everything. And so this kid comes in. He's in between his junior and senior year in college. And I didn't go to college. I went to work. So I don't know what that's about. But so he sits down. My wife went to college, and this kid wanted to be an intern at our office. And I asked my wife before this, I said, I'm interviewing an intern. I don't know what do I offer him as pay? And she's like, nothing. Like, we don't pay interns. Like, they're coming here to learn. And she's like, when I was in college, we begged for internships, right?
Yep. Yep.
So this kid sits down, and I'm interviewing him. He's clean cut, good looking dude. And I'm like, okay, you I think you might fit in here. And what, are you looking for unpaid or paid? Oh, no, it has to be paid. I go, oh, okay. What do you think? And he goes, I don't know. I was thinking like 20. And I go, 20,000? And he goes, no, $20 an hour. And I'm like, dude, there's people that have been here for 3 years not making $20 an hour. No, are you crazy? Get out of my office. Like, I think though, and that comes back to what you talked about. If you're in an interview, you're interviewing for a position with a company, you're wherever, like, bring value first.
Yes.
Bring value first.
Understand what they're doing. When I would interview people, and for people who have trouble interviewing, get Dr. Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. Get that book. On page 56 and 57, she has grit questions. And I learned after many failures was I'm going to look for character traits is what I'm looking for. Yeah. Integrity, persistence, determination, willing to collaborate, that type of stuff. I can teach you everything else. I can teach you what you need for this job, but I cannot teach you integrity and focus and value. I can't teach that. You either have them or you don't, right? So Angela Duckworth, Grit, get the book, page 56 and 57. I used that a lot once I found the book when I did interviewing of people. But you have to know, number one, what is it that they do? And then offer something. Offer something that, all right, am I understanding it correctly? You're looking for this. Have you considered X, Y, Z? Right. So when I interviewed people in high tech, when you're doing failing companies, when you're interviewing where you have a failing company, people would come in. I always have the CFO there, and I would lay out, here's the issues. And after one of them, my CFO said to me, what the hell are you doing? You're putting out all of our dirty laundry. And I said, well, because we don't know how to clean the dirty laundry. Maybe this guy can help us, or this woman can help us clean this dirty laundry. So if they have the skill that we don't have, then let's bring them in. But let's not do motherhood and apple pie. And the person comes in and they've got this, as we've seen so many times, this entitled mindset. Oh, I'm going to do this. No, you're not. I need help here. This is what I need.
Right. But what Joe says, but what if I have pictures next to really nice cars on Instagram? Won't you pay me more money?
There was a guy when I was in Seattle. There was a guy who worked for Microsoft that as software would go internally, they would use it for testing,
Yeah.
and it would go back to him, and he's supposed to do whatever he's supposed to do with it. Well, he was selling it out the back door, and
Oh,
then he was putting Instagram and Facebook pictures of his house and all of his fancy cars that he had. And now Bill Gates, not a stupid man, his people look at this and say, look, we paid this guy X. There's no chance that he could, and we know what his wife is doing. There's no chance he can possibly afford this. So let's start digging into it. And they found out that he, for years, I don't know how many years, because it wasn't that long, had been selling the software that was used for internal testing to
oh,
people, kind of like black market, Craigslist, that kind of nonsense.
wow.
So no, having pictures with fancy cars is not going to help you.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Well, hey, I gotta thank you, man. This has been a great interview, and I think everybody. Well, it sounds like you've already gotten some LinkedIn requests, so
Wonderful.
I think everybody should follow you. And man, you're an amazing dude, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you on my show and making it such a great episode. And anytime you need anything, give me a holler.
It's exciting that we're in a book together. And
That's right.
what's the story? What's your story, real quick, in the book Crappy to Happy?
Crappy to Happy, the book. I sent them 2 or 3 options, and the one that they decided they liked the best was called 5 Years to Live. And this was a car accident that my youngest brother was in 35 plus years ago, and he's paralyzed, a quadriplegic. And when after they had the surgery, they came in to talk to the family, and I have a huge Italian family. Like I have 400 cousins in the Northeast.
Wow.
And there was my mother, my immediate family was there with the doctors and about 20 cousins in this room. And the doctor came out and said, you know, the surgery went as well as could be expected, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm the blunt one in the family. And I said, okay, yes or no? Yes or no? I understand that people with this injury die within 5 years. Yes or no? And they started to, well, it depends on. I said, stop. Yes or no?
Right.
And she said, yes, that's true. Most people with this injury die within 5 years.
Wow.
And then they said, she then said, well, you may want to consider, because he's going to have to learn how to do everything, every human function, including holding a spoon again. Wow. Right? So you may want to consider putting him in a specialty home where he's going to have the assistance and all this. And my mother at the time, was alive at the time, was in hysterics. This is her youngest child, and she's just bawling her eyes out, just total devastation. And the doctor made that statement, and my mother went from intense sorrow and sobbing to rage. And she said, under no circumstances will he ever see the inside of a home, ever. We will learn whatever it takes. We will do whatever it takes, and we will make sure that he gets the best possible care. And wow. If we have to do it ourselves. And the doctor looks around the room, and there's like 27 people in there, and everybody's nodding their head. And she said, well, you got the right attitude for this. So that changed everything in our life and in our family. I was living in San Francisco. I moved to South Carolina. I got a job transfer so I could be, and the accident happened in Philadelphia. Okay. So I could be an hour flight from Philadelphia. Yeah. And so I did that for the year or more that he was in the hospital. And then he got out and finished a master's degree. He wanted to stay in Buffalo, New York. That's where we all grew up, right? Yeah. And I kept telling him, Steve, you're in a customized van. You're in a power wheelchair. You have snow up to your eyes 6 months out of the year.
Right.
There's no chance you can stay here.
Right, right.
He's Italian. He's stubborn as hell. So, no, I'm going to stay here. He had a second where the van slid into a snowbank. You know, the snowbanks in Western New York. Didn't get hurt.
Right.
But, you know, we called and said, okay, what's going on here, man? You're going to have to leave. So he was having a surgery, and, you know, the act of God type of thing, put your faith. Yeah. He's having the second surgery. We're all there. My sister, who ran rehabilitation hospitals, had moved to Phoenix, and she calls us up, you know, no email back then, calls us up and says, hey, the neighbor next door to me died, older woman, close to 90 years old. The house is a mirror image of mine. my sister went over to talk to the family because she saw the woman periodically, and she says, anything we can do to help you, please feel free, let me know. And the family said, well, we're from Minnesota and we want to get rid of this place as fast as possible because we have no desire to be here. So my sister says, not to be a ghoul over the grave here, but if you'll give me 48 hours, I'll bet my family will buy this house. So she gets the old video cameras, remember the big camera? Does the video of the house, talking through it. Federal Expresses it to the hospital. We have one of those little TVs, those little dinky TVs where you could stick a I mean, what even CDs then? I don't know what they were, DVDs.
VHS or whatever.
VHS. They stick the VHS in while my brother's coming out of surgery, and we're looking at the house, and we're looking at it, and it's a mirror image of Annette's, my sister, and the insurance is going to renovate a house for him as part of the settlement, right? So we said, what do you think? And so bought the house. They're right next door to each other with a breezeway in between.
Wow.
Okay? Worked out perfectly. It's one of those, as you said in your story, you give up, you put your faith in a higher power and say, okay, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. What do I need to do? Open a door. And so that's what that chapter is about. And from what did it impact on me? Well, it was, look, if my brother, who's 8 years younger than I am, could go through this with the attitude that he had and how helpful he has been and the things he has accomplished in 35 years post-accident, he can do all that. What I'm dealing with isn't going to be that difficult.
That's
going through divorce, going through a number. It's not nearly what he went through.
Wow. And he's still alive?
Still alive. Just celebrated 35 years.
Wow.
Post-accident. Now the Arizona State Medical School has him do like a seminar with their medical students, because as far as spinal cord rehabilitation, medical school, there's so much that these young upcoming doctors get bombarded with that they get like 25 minutes on spinal cord rehab, right? So he lived 35 years. They said, you should have died 30 years ago.
Wow.
And so they're amazed that, number one, he's still alive, and that the choices that he made. So he sits down with these students and he'll go through. He asks me questions. Here's what a spinal cord thing. Here's the things you got to be concerned about. Here's where you guys always want medicine. So if you're a surgeon, everything needs a knife. If you're a doctor, everything needs a pill. Says you don't do that. He had so many years, Ken, he was taking a set of pills and whatever drugs, and it would impact his kidneys. So we got to shift it. Now that one impacted his liver. And it was always, and then you're always readjusting to this new set of meds. So one of the doctors, thank God, another one of those divine intervention things, said, Steve, you know more about this than I do. So I'm going to connect you with a holistic doctor, and I'll find a way for insurance to pay for this. Okay. Wow. And he meets with this holistic doctor who he called the witch doctor. And they said, this is what you have to eat. This is the exercise you have to do. This is the way you're going to have to live your life going forward. Okay. And he did religiously. That's
incredible.
And they had asked him, what are your goals, Steve? And he said, I have to outlive my parents. I'm not going to make them go through this and then have to bury me.
Wow.
So our dad died January 7th, just a few months ago.
Oh man.
And
sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And someone said to him, okay, Steve, you got to set up a new set of goals now. You outlived your parents. That was the goal.
Wow.
So he has been on the North Phoenix Planning Commission for years, was appointed by the councilwoman, city person. So he's been doing that for years. He's involved with the Franciscan resort for the Franciscan order in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Wow.
Teaching confirmation classes and working with high school students. And he's like the mayor, the Pied Piper. Anytime you go anywhere with my brother, plan on 30 to 45 minutes of just sitting, waiting to leave, because everybody on the planet knows him and is coming to talk to him. And
that's awesome. Sounds inspirational.
It is. It's extremely inspirational. and to have it right there. I go every month to Phoenix since he moved there.
Wow.
And we spent time with him, my sister, then my daughters and my grandson are in Phoenix also. So next week, this Sunday, I'm going back again.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Frank, thank you so much for being on. I'm going to end the live stream, but if you don't mind, stay with me for a minute and we'll chat after I end all this. So
Perfect.
Frank Zaccari, thank you. Appreciate you being on.
My pleasure. Anytime.
And thank you to everyone who's watched and shared this out. Really appreciate that. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.